I hope you are ready for Module 4. We're going to keep moving on through the lifespan. So look how fast in a week we're going to move all the way to toddlerhood. So this week in Module 4, we're actually going to be discussing two different chapters. So you'll be reading chapters 4 and chapter 5. And you will be taking two chapter quizzes, one on chapter 4 and one on chapter 5. So make sure that you clear the extra time to do both of those. They're both going to pertain to toddlerhood. So I think that that's really helpful because we're going to stay right there in that toddler, but we're going to be looking at chapter 4, which is going to focus on the physical development, and chapter 5, which is going to be focusing on the cognitive development. There is just so much going on during this phase. Just an amazing amount of stuff is going on. And so we really have to take the time to look at that and donate a whole chapter to some of these systems because they're so huge. This is one of the most profound times of growth in both areas. So physically, we're going to be looking at the body growth. What is how fast these babies are going to grow and develop, and what's happening as their bodies grow and develop, as well as we're going to be looking specifically at the brain development. So this is a critical period, an absolutely critical period, where the brain is on fire, the body is on fire. These babies are spending a whole lot of time and a whole lot of energy just to grow into what they can become one day. So we're going to be looking both at the body and specifically at the brain development. And more importantly, we're going to be looking at things that we can do to help in the healthy progression and development of body and brain development, as well as things that could impede that, so that we can find if there are barriers or problems, we can identify them, and that we can help our child to develop the very best way that they can. In the process of looking at that, we're going to be looking at things like learning capacity, motor development, when they start moving their hands around, when they realize it's really their hand, when they start controlling their hand, they hit themselves on the head a few times with that rattle, and then they figure out how to do it differently. This is really an exciting time, as well as looking at things like perception. So one of the reasons they clock themselves is they don't have good perception yet. We believe they may know more than they can do. It takes a minute to figure out how to make that hand do what I want it to do, but I know what we want it to happen. So we know that babies in this very early age will look at seemingly impossible events and keep staring at them. And we do this now because we have the advances with videos and things like that. They're waiting for peekaboo. They know you're back there. They're just waiting for you to show back up. So they didn't lose interest. Typically, they know you're there. They just can't do anything about it because they don't know how to control for that yet. Not yet. That's going to come. As we go into chapter 5, we're going to be looking at the cognitive development again. Here we're going to get one of the key theorists that we're going to look at, and this is Piaget. Piaget is very famous, and he actually was inspired by his own children as he watched them develop, as he watched them progress, and he came up with some really great theories on development where he talks about there's just a critical period where a child can move forward, but we can't push them too hard because they simply can't do it yet. So what is that range? And for every child, it's a little bit different, but we can't force it too earlier than they're able to do. And this whole cognitive process, he goes through different phases. It's really, really very interesting stuff. So you can beg, borrow, and steal for a 6-week-old baby to speak, but they can't. They're just not ready. So this gives you some really good insights in some of those developments, and really interesting reading there. And again, this is a pretty proven theory, so it's worth your time. We're also going to spend some time looking at information processing. How do young toddler babies, how do they take in information? What are they taking in? This is something to pay attention to, young parents. So are they hearing you? What are they picking up on? Do they pick up on when we're angry or when we're upset or when we're happy? And it's worth looking at because they do. Very young babies may not understand, but they do pick up. And they do hear things, and they do pick up on the emotions that are around them. So we're going to be looking at things like that, the social context of the cognitive processing, and the individual differences. Because no matter what, they're not going to come out exactly the same. They're all going to process information a little bit differently because they're unique children. And so every child will this is where you start to see that personality and that temperament and that interest and those different things start to surface. It's a really exciting time for you to watch your child develop into who they're going to be. And also included in this chapter is going to be language development. This is where we're going to start the very, very beginning of language and how language is developed. So it's got a lot of stuff, but it's really interesting stuff. I don't know how old all of you are taking this course, but I know all of you have gone through this stage. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you could apply it to your own lives or to somebody's life you know or your own children, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.